last year I met Wojciech in Warsaw, who is also joined the iGaming industry around 2008. And just a spoiler alert, you see the guy there with the long hair? You know Rasmus, you know Eman. They all have long hairs. He started that thing probably. So this session is actually dedicated for those days, early 2008, 2007, when the parties were wild, not like last night. And people still had fun without being on their phone all day. Actually, it was fun to remember that the badges did not contain your name. It contained your username, because everybody who was an affiliate, they had their username on it. So guys, we have Zönke here, who is not from the industry, a very curious guy, virtual reality guy, who will ask the questions from our legends of the industry, I can call them like that. So guys, the stage is yours.
Thanks. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, please welcome on stage Becky, Sarah, Michael, and Wojciech. I think I leave it to you to introduce yourself. Oh. Sweet, nice.
Do you feel the spirit now? Just a little bit? Okay.
Well, you can stand up all the time. And thanks for the nice words, Zoltan, and yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for having us. Well, I would start with you introducing yourself a little bit. I don't know, everybody might know you, but perhaps not. Is there only this one mic? No, you all have mics, that's right. And then we start into looking back into wild days and where we came from and where we are right now. Please, Becky.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Becky Legiro, and I have been in the online gambling industry for 20 years now, which is insane. I'll be super quick. I started off in 2005 working for an affiliate called Casino City. Then I moved on to calvinair.com, which was a media site in the online gambling industry space, and I conducted interviews with people for many years, but now I'm a bit more focused on the blockchain space with my website, coingeek.com, which is actually the same owner as calvinair.com, so it kind of all blends together. And I'm on the periphery of iGaming now when I talk about where these future technologies intersect with iGaming. And I'm so happy to be on this panel. Thank you, Zoltan, for making it happen. We talked about it in Warsaw. I think it was us at the networking
Yes, we
drinks
were.
saying it would be amazing if we could do this, and here we are. So thank you for joining us. Yes.
Hello, I'm Sarah Blackburn, co-owner of Game On, which is a B2B specialist PR marketing social media agency. Like Becky, I've been in the industry for 20 years now, although we don't look like we have, I hope.
Definitely not.
But we are only day one of a conference. Ask us again in about 4 days. So I've been working across all verticals within the industry, and this is my first time as a panelist, so nerves are a little bit high, so everybody be very gentle, particularly if it comes to Q&A sessions.
First of all, thank you, Zoltan, once again for bringing this topic, very important topic, to the stage that we were talking in last October, and together with Becky, because I had the inspiration and the recognition that nowadays the iGaming spirit got lost through the regulations and all the compliance stuff. My name is Wojciech Trzaska, and I'm the Chief Communications Officer at the SB Software. I'm in the industry for over 16 years, but more than that, as a former asset manager, I had a lot of companies, shares of the companies in my portfolio, so I know the industry for a longer time, and this is one of my stories, how I came into the industry. It was during the yearly numbers presentation of a big and well-known company back then, Bet at Home, where I argued about the way of presentation of the numbers with one of the co-founders. And in the after the conversation, or as a following of that, he made me a job offer. So, and then I switched from the banking into the iGaming, and I feel the spirit. One of my best experiences, and at the very beginning, is the first interview with Becky at the wild party of the affiliate, that one of the affiliates on the conference that Mike just organized back then. But the affiliate is not existing anymore. But I remember this party and the interview with Becky back then, thanks to Mike.
So gosh, that leaves me last. So I got into the online gaming industry in '96. I started looking at it with an MBA thesis and wrote my thesis on the internet gaming space and if it was going to work and how it was going to work. Then finished that, and in '97 launched a website called Online Casino News. Started attending shows like ICE, and there were basically two conferences happening at that time. There was ICE and there was one by Sue Schneider. And I'd notice at ICE, I'd go up to all the big companies like Bally and IGT and all the big suppliers, and they'd say, listen, we're having a lovely gala tonight, or a lovely dinner, or a lovely event. Please come along. I'd say, thank you very much. They'd ask me what I did. And I said, well, I have a website called Online Casino News that I've just launched, and it basically talks about what's happening in the online gaming industry. And they said, oh, you guys are criminals. You're not invited. None of you are invited. None of your friends are invited. Stay away from us. You're evil. And that was across the board. So at some point, I kind of just sat back and thought, you know what? We need a community of our own. So I started arranging parties and drinks nights and get-togethers, and that eventually led to magazines and conferences and other events across the world. And so I guess I've spent about 30 years now in this space getting people together, trying to align us in one direction, and creating the narrative, not just for us internally, but for the rest of the world to see us, in order to create, you know, what the world sees as the internet gambling industry. So I think that's kind of been not my day job, but what's been happening in the background, and probably the most important part of what I've done.
Just something really quick to add. Michael, I think you were the one that coined the term iGaming as opposed to gambling, because we were so far out there in the black sheep that we changed. Yeah. It's confusing today because the gaming industry is huge as well. So I get questioned, oh, you're from the gaming, video games. No, iGaming, gambling.
That's
it
right.
was him.
Yeah, we had to be very careful about what we said, of course, in the early days, because if the New York Times, the newspaper, picked something up in 1998 that was somehow terrible, then you could face overregulation really, really quickly, and it would have killed the industry, because there are only about 200 people in the whole industry. There are only a few companies doing anything. So we could have been shut down right away had we not treaded very carefully. And of course, in a world with no regulation, how do you make sure everyone is a fair actor? Well, by everyone knowing each other and creating a self-regulatory system, kind of based on the fact that we all knew each other and we were all pulling in the same direction, was the only way to make sure that this thing could grow to where we are today.
Yeah, I already, like, when we had a first call about this panel, I already encountered that I'm not even needed. I mean, these guys can talk for hours and they don't need any moderation. Anyway, as I am on stage with you guys, I want to ask a question that Zoltan put out. And when I've seen that bullet point, I was wondering, he said, like, what's the first memories that come to your mind? And I mean, of course, you might have earlier memories than the one that he pointed out, but he said, like, early gaming days, 2007 to 2015, it's not even 20 years ago. Well, Mike, why don't you start with, like, what was the size of your newsletter and what it is now, and what's your memories out of 2007, perhaps 2006?
Well, actually, 1997 is what
No,
it was.
Zoltan said 2007, so I
No,
was
he
wondering.
came later.
You can go back 10
came
years
earlier.
more if you want to. Like,
I'll tell
let
you,
us know.
in 97, I had maybe 7 clients that I would rotate on my site. The click-through rates, if they got under 7% or 6.5%, I'd call the clients and say, change your banners to something that flashes green and red. And flash it faster, because you'll get a 7.5% click-through rate and we'll make a lot more money. And there wasn't much traffic, and I had the number 1 and 2 spots on Yahoo, and that's where everything was going great. And it probably half the world's internet gambling clients came through the website, but it wasn't a huge amount of volume at all. Now, you fast forward to 2007 and fast forward to 7 to 15, then the world really comes online. And the big thing that I think brought people online was poker. Poker got on television. when poker got on TV, the world thought it looked really cool.
That's why the nicknames also on the badges, because of poker.
Because of
Yes.
poker as well. I mean, remember, there's not any regulation. Well, there's not a lot of regulation even at that time. The regulation in America hadn't started yet, and people were running poker sites under the advice of their lawyers that said it was okay for certain reasons because poker is a game of skill, predominantly skill, not chance. Well, that worked for a while until the U.S. government shut down a whole bunch of poker sites and seized a whole bunch of money. So you were working in this vacuum without absolute regulation back then. And what are the memories from that time? I would say that my greatest memories are being at the World Series, the poker, and the land-based gaming industry finally accepting at least that part of the online industry, the online poker part, and saying, please, you're welcome, come to the World Series, bring all your players, qualify online. And at that point, there was a blending between the online and the land-based. And all the land-based guys that were shutting down their poker rooms decided, actually, no, expand the poker rooms. All these people are playing online. That'll attract more people to the casinos, and then we'll sell them other stuff, shows and Cirque du Soleils and slot machines and everything else we do at this casino. Let's get them in with this thing that they really love. Those were some happy days.
What was your nickname?
My poker nickname? You know what? I'll tell you the truth. I owned a magazine called Bluff. Some of you probably remember it.
Yes, of course I remember that.
It was a very big global poker magazine. And when I first launched it, I didn't really know much about poker. It was early days of poker. And all the people that I had writing for it were professional poker players. So they became my friends, and we started playing poker together. After about 3 weeks of playing poker with them, I thought, they are gonna own the magazine. I'm gonna be broke in another couple of weeks. I can't play with these guys. And then I started to play with people that really are terrible at poker, so I never became very good.
Alrighty, Wojciech, please.
So yes, my very first memory when I switched from being the asset manager sitting in the front of the Bloomberg terminal every day and watching on the red and green positions, then into the gaming. A very good memory was, as I said already, the interview with Becky that approached me on the wildest party in one of the Orchid Club, it was, in London.
Tell us more.
Sorry?
Tell us more.
Yeah, so it was a wild party, and as a newbie, as a very young newbie back then, I just approached the bar, of course, with the bracelet on my wrist, and the very first question that you are asking is, okay, what do I get for this? And the barkeeper just looked at me, everything. And then I said to my friend, fine, we stay at the bar. So this was one of the memories, and of course, my very first press conference for Bet at Home back then, as a head of investor relations and public relations, we wanted to go to be listed in Warsaw, and my assistant just called me and said, okay, we invited 32 journalists, 28 of them confirmed. But you know, when the prime minister, when they get an SMS that the prime minister just broke his nail, they are out. You have to nail him to the chair that they stay for your story. And then I said, okay, this is on the next day at 9 in the hotel. I completely revamped my presentation. And then I said in the very first sentence, guys, I bet with every one of you, I just bet with you, make a bet. You bet at least once, you placed a bet at least once in your life. And I bet with you once again and placed a bet. You did it when you were a child. So, you know everything about the bets. And then they just stayed. Okay, and I made the presentation and just closed it with the hook saying, guys, so every one of us knows the bets, how they are working, and then the difference is we know how to make money with it. And the publicity was phenomenal. It was one of my best memories back then.
Sounds nice here, thanks. Sarah?
Yeah.
My first event was Gigsy, which is where I met Michael and Becky for the first time. And I think one of my biggest memories was actually having to lie to immigration as I was going through. And because, again, you weren't really able to be so transparent and honest that you were going to an iGaming event because of the controversy around it. My biggest thoughts from back then were, and we were reminiscing about it last night, is we were kids, right? We were in our late 20s, And at that time, I started my career with a huge software provider. I won't mention who they were right now. I'm sure you could check it on my LinkedIn. But I was their head of marketing. I was 29, 30. And the elders, as I would say, the CEOs and the founders, they would all go off and have their private dinners. And they would, you know, we weren't really privy to any of those conversations they were having because they were the OGs. So that left us lot with extraordinary amounts of budget to go and have a really good time. And although we're an online industry, all the community building was built offline. So we had the most fantastic parties. You know, you had to stay up until the last man was standing or woman standing. The most salubrious places I've been to and put onto my corporate card that I hope never came through as the exact place I'd been to have to explain to the FD. But it was just, it was different time, and it was so fun as well. And again, like Michael was saying, this is before regulation. This was before, listen, it was a very male-dominated industry at that time too, so the events were different to what we would perhaps experience now, but no less fun. And so my biggest thing probably is the parties, and then
Oh yes, oh yes.
and then even like last night, we were getting very blurry between all the different parties we've been to, between Prague and Budapest and Las Vegas and Monaco, and you know, but still those memories are so vivid for us. They wouldn't happen now, you know. You would not have two men quite overweight, wearing nappies, eating lamb leg joints in a cage, whilst women were mud wrestling in another cage, and, you know, for the 7 Deadly Sins party with an absinthe bar right next door, so you didn't know if you were hallucinating or if what was happening in front of you was actually real. So it was the budgets and the parties.
Yes. And then realize you are joining the industry as a newbie, and you'll see all of this and think, oh, what kind of universe is it?
And my poker name was Blue Eyes 120.
Just want to point out the 7 Deadly Sins party was a calvinair.com party. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Thanks, Becky.
Yeah, Becky, perhaps you can share more insights of that party. It sounds like we missed something.
Oh, dear. Yeah, those were the days. But I'm going to actually go back to 2005, which is when I started, and hopefully give you guys a couple of takeaways. So 2005, the first conference I went to was Gigsy like Sarah. And the industry was totally unregulated at this time. Parties were crazy. People had so much money to spend. You didn't even have to justify where it came from. It was crazy. So I had about 1.5 years of that. Made so many friends. It was amazing. But then we got hit with UEGA, which stands for Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act. And this meant that the US market became very challenging for the online gambling operators because of getting payments in and out. So it was essentially against the law for the banks to accept payments from gambling companies or gamblers. So we had to go through a transition of when people were making so much money, affiliates, the operators, everyone, to just having like main revenue streams shut off. So this was an overnight switch. We did not have any warning of this. So I know that regulation is a huge topic here at this conference today, and some of them are coming in the future, so prepare is all I have to say. You have time to prepare, so that's actually a really amazing thing. We were able to pivot, but if you have time to prepare, then do it, because it was a major, major hit. It changed everything for us. The other amazing memory that I have was attending the Bodog conference in 2005. Insane. The biggest party I've ever been to in my life. They rented out the Palms Hotel. You know, one of the clubs inside the Palms, and it was branded Bodog. It was amazing. And I said, I want to work for this brand. It's so amazing. So I introduced myself to the owner of the company, Calvin Ayre, in 2005. I said, I want to work for you. And he's like, oh, I'm not hiring any Americans. There's no opportunity, but let's keep in touch. And 5 years later, after keeping in touch with this man, I joined his company, and I'm still there 15 years later. So my point there is the people that you meet in this industry, you never know where it's going to take you. So just network, network, network. That's my message to you.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So networking, I think, is much easier if you have smaller events, right? If you meet and mingle with people that you know and that you bump into each time again. I think that's two things I I heard in the call before, it's like one thing is size, that companies getting bigger and bigger, and events are getting bigger and bigger, and so you don't meet the people anymore. And the other, of course, the topic is regulations. So what do you think has most impact on the industry right now, and what, like, in a way of making it less perhaps private or less fun? Well, we can start this way around. Becky again, or Sarah, if you want, please.
Well, I was going to say, this is my first time to this event, and the conversation we were having is, you know, if we could go to an event every week, you know, you've just got to decide what you want to get out of it. And bigger doesn't equal best, and that's what's really important to remember. So an event like this, it's brilliant because you get the opportunity, because it's so intimate, to introduce yourself and to network and to make those contacts. And going back to what Becky was saying, that is what's going to help propel your business through your network. And it's also the sharing of information. That's what these events were always for. You were always sharing information, gossip, whatever it might be, but it was useful and meaningful. And a lot of these bigger events have lost that community feel. So why smaller events like this are fantastic, because again, you have that one-on-one opportunity to talk to people at the bar, at lunch, and you know, there's a real value for the smaller events.
Right.
That's very true, and through the events, they became bigger and bigger. We lost the spirit on the way. Of course, the very important part to that is the regulation, and nowadays we are facing the over-regulations of the market, compliance, all the rules. They killed the spirit as well, because most of the countries became regulated almost in the same time. We have to, as a companies, as a part of the industry, we have to focus on the new regulations, how to comply with them, and so on and so on. And then we lost on the way the spirit, but the spirit was definitely there. And the company, even